Hey guys, it's Will. So in this video, we're going to be going over the new moves we've seen with Quantum today. So we were covering Big Bear AI earlier, but take a look at Quantum. We saw this move. If we head over to our Quantum AI watch list, and one of the companies that was getting some traction today was IONQ. While some of Rigetti sold off, you could see QBTS was down there just a little bit. Nvidia was down as well. IONQ is getting my attention. This is a company that we got to meet the executives of at the CES conference in Las Vegas. And one of the things that they outlined was that the quantum computing industry is set to grow between $2 to $5 trillion over the next few years. And when you look at the company, you see some of the growth that they had. They spiked up to from what was $6 up to $54 before selling off down to about $18.15. Let's take a look at this recent recovery that's starting to develop. I want to take a moment here too to just kind of recognize that the stock has sold off a lot, and while it looks like maybe it could recover back to previous highs, it also is a downtrend. Like, there's no doubt about it. It's sold off quite a bit. It bounced at this 200-day moving average, which would indicate that potentially we could see a reversal upwards. But before we just kind of throw all our eggs into one basket and take a look at IONQ from a total bull perspective, one just level to kind of look at here is this trend that's happening. I'm not too fond of obviously the sell-off, but one thing to note is that it didn't really get phased after the recent, I don't want to say negative, but definitely not positive comments from Jensen at the NVIDIA GTC conference where they had their talk about quantum. I wouldn't say that it was negative by any means, but I see that Jensen has some reservations about the applications of quantum computing in today's world. And even though NVIDIA is a heavy investor in most of these companies, has their own new quantum side of things that they're developing right now, the reality is they weren't too optimistic in talking about the quantum future with these companies at the conference. And with that, we didn't see any insane recovery, but we do start to see this trend develop. And before we get ahead of ourselves, I'm not saying it's a trend that's necessarily totally bullish. In fact, there is a level here at which it's gotten rejected a few times, and it just got a little rejected yesterday, and then today it was trying to push above this level. But what we're looking at here could potentially be this trend right here. So let me just map this out, kind of see this level right here. So this is a previous support and previous resistance, and it's possible that right now it is a little bit overextended. Okay, so this level is an unpopular view at what could be the future of IONQ, but I would say that this is kind of what we're looking at here. So potentially starting to see a little bit of an uptrend. We definitely see it reverse above the 200-day moving average. Now looking at it, there's two kind of levels that I would pay close attention to. The first is potentially this run up to this level. This would be really a continuation of that trend, and it would be a 16% increase up to $29. We're most likely going to buy IONQ at market open tomorrow. I've been watching it very closely. I'm starting to like the pattern, and I could see that move potentially happen. The other side of things is kind of pulling back down to this 200-day moving average, maybe continuing the trend at a less bullish outlook. But this is the levels that we'd be looking at if it is this trend that we are identifying right now. Now, the IONQ outlook, if you take a look at the company, they are demonstrating quantum in a few different avenues. You have direct carbon sequestration, where they're studying how quantum computers are helping to pull out CO2 from the atmosphere and basically scrub it of CO2. The other one is better battery materials. One of the CEO, or not the CEO, but one of the executives demonstrated at CES that they were able to take 25 years of research, all of that data, run it through an AI and run it through a quantum computer, and then gets 8 answers on ways to improve the lithium ion battery, one of which led to improving the battery by 70% efficiency. So there's that. There is the new building out of drug discovery and their partnerships with NVIDIA. First, you got NVIDIA, then you got Microsoft as well, and you also got Amazon and Google Cloud. So these are not only companies that they have as partners so that let's say you're an investor, you're looking at that, but let's say that you're a developer and you want to use quantum computers, you want to actually use these quantum computers to solve big problems. Well, you can use, for example, Microsoft or Amazon, and you can tap into the IONQ over here. For example, AWS. Let's see, AWS right there. And also in Google Cloud. You can tap into using sending queries out to the quantum computer through the cloud via AWS. And this is here, as you can see, it's available for developers to use. And the reality is there's a lot less practicality around the usage, but the partnerships kind of say it all. There's big companies that are looking forward to using these quantum computers, including Air Force, Lockheed Martin, and I mean even GE and some of the other companies that you might not maybe expect, they look more old school, are using these as well. Now, when you take a look here, you got powered by atoms, you got the quantum cloud made for developers. So here's another look at how they're kind of integrating into businesses where you can get direct access to the latest quantum hardware. And that's something that we'll be watching closely. The drug discovery is a big key as well. Binding peptide proteins was talk of the town at the CES quantum event. And then also, if we take a look at IONQ and their financials, so there's three things we look at. First, we looked at the chart here, and we're starting to see this trend develop in that it's at a resistance, but we'd like to take advantage of it potentially at market open tomorrow. The second, some of the news and the use cases that we're seeing is that they have this on their site where they're working with other companies, but they also have the Quantum Initiative Reauthorization Act, which would be about $2.7 billion. And if this bill passes, which it most likely will, as it's already passed even back in the previous Trump administration, right, is that this bill would essentially be some influx of cash for IONQ. Now, we know China invests about $10 billion into quantum research this year. The US is obviously putting up $500 billion for Stargate, and then another $500 billion in other AI investments. So, it's not like we're not going to see massive investments in AI, but some of that might bleed over into quantum, especially with this bill that could get signed. If it gets signed, you can see one of the company, it says IONQ applauds the senator, Maria Cantwell, in her efforts to reauthorize the National Quantum Initiative Act. And you can see the IONQ is speaking, on this bill as well and looking forward to it. And so outside of the news that looks fairly good around the developments and starting to see them be used by more companies and maybe some commercialization happening, then we got the financials. And the financials, they looked okay. They were starting to see some improved revenue. You got 7 million. Look at that revenue. You get into 11 million. So just kind of improvements and then kind of tapering off. There's a table of revenue at about 11 million. But look at that net income, negative 200 million they spent and still weren't able to come up profitable in that last quarter. So that's part of what brought the stock down, along with some other announcements. So when I'm looking at it, as an investor, it's a trade. It's a trade for short-term volatility that is expected because some of these swings, take a look at these swings that are happening. This swing right here over the past 4 days was 25%. This swing right here was another 25 or 30%. This swing right here was another 30%. So we're seeing these big swings, and I love to trade it. I will be trading it in our live session each morning, and I look forward to doing that. And we'll see if any opportunities present themselves at market open. As far as the long term goes, it's such an early tell, but I would say quantum is a good investment to diversify in, and the long term would make a lot of sense for these companies to continue to gain momentum. And I do think IONQ has some potential to be one of the main players, if not they're already the main player in quantum computing, especially accelerating into AI over the next few years. This is going to be one of the main companies that is doing a very good job of research, very good job of making partnerships. And next, they got to do a very good job of not just developing their tech and solving some of these high level problems that GPUs can't solve, but they need to do it in a way that's going to put them to be able to commercialize with plugging into actual businesses and seeing bigger revenues and bigger profits. And if they do that right over the next few months and next few quarters, especially here in 2025, it's a great year for them to do that, then we could see massive upside for the company. And quantum computing, is already growing fast, but they could be one of the main players in the space. So I like the long term, but that, 6 months out to 1 year out is very uncertain. We don't know where they'll be. In the short term, we like to play the trends. We like to play this volatility, and that's why we'll be watching it at Market Open. If you guys want to watch me trade live, it's the second link in the description. We go live there each and every morning at Market Open. And every single day, Monday through Friday, we're there trading, looking for opportunities. If you'd like to surround yourself with other traders and investors, it's that second link in the description to join us there. Thank you guys again for watching. If I earned your thumbs up, hit that like button. Do consider subscribing. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take guys.